Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. I am joined by my co-host, Michael Reed. Hall will not be joining us for this episode. He is busy. He is doing wife duties, which, of course, we do not condone here. So, Hall, thank you, sir. We'll make sure to catch you on the next one. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. The title of tonight's episode is What Have We Learned? You know, it's been over a week from Washington's training camp, and today was the first one open to fans. So we thought we'd bring in Mr. David Harrison of SI of the Locked On Commanders podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday evening. David, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, guys. Appreciate the invite as always. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, sir. And so the first question I have to ask you, David, is what have we learned? You know, because last time that we talked to you was before you were able to go watch practice. We've had a couple of practices here, so I wanted to make sure to bring you in here, kind of get your understanding. Because my old man, whenever he picked us up from school, he would say, "What have you learned? You know, what did you learn today?" So that's my question to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we really learned is just that the potential that everybody sees in this team is real, right? Like I think that's kind of the best thing that you can say you learned so far. Obviously, with pads coming on Monday, you're the potential up and down this roster, I think.
Internet's choppy right now. Hold on, guys. Oh, come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Of course, it's always mine. So I'm sorry, everybody. I'm having technical difficulties. Of course, now my network is unstable as soon as we started recording. But obviously, you just heard David talk about that. Sorry, David. You could keep going, elaborating. My internet was unstable for a minute.
No, you're good. You know, Jayden has shown a lot of like that flash and that potential, right? And it's kind of it just kind of depends on who you talk to. A lot of us don't like seeing quarterbacks run when you're in this type of environment because you can't be hit, you know, and you can't even be touched, right. You can't even be shoved. So it's kind of like it's almost like what's the point? But when you have an offense like Cliff Kingsbury's, you know, quarterback like Jayden, like there's gonna be a lot of designed runs in this offense. So I don't mind so much seeing the quarterbacks run these designed runs because the guys need to know how to block them up. You know, if there's a play action element or an option element to it, the running backs need to know kind of how to get through and just get into the rhythm of it. And the quarterbacks need to display that ability to read the defense appropriately. So we've seen a lot of that from Jayden. You know, there was the day that he threw his first interception of camp. He also had his first rushing touchdown of camp. And that was an option where he had the option of sticking the ball in Brian Robinson's gut or keeping it and running it in for himself. He decided to keep it. He ran it in. And, you know, it would have been a touchdown. You know, he probably would have got hit like right on the other side of the goal line, but he would have scored regardless. So because the play was blocked up right. But I personally don't like seeing a whole lot of scrambling. I think the good thing is that Jayden hasn't really done a lot of scrambling as far as running, you know, past the line of scrimmage. He's extended plays. He's rolled out to give his guys opportunities. And that's what you do want to see, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that a lot of those things and guys have talked about that as well as his understanding of just kind of how he can manipulate the field, how he interacts with the field. But then, you know, the O-line, we've seen good moments from them. We've seen good moments from Brandon Coleman, Cornelius Lucas, things like that. Again, pads are going to tell you a lot more from there. We've seen the tight end room make plays. We've seen Cole Turner go out there and catch some passes and things. And we've seen, you know, Jahan get loose and get open. And Luke McCaffrey has made some plays defensively. You kind of know who the DTs are, but the defensive ends have looked very fast. And we've seen snaps where they're getting in the backfield with the quickness. Frankie Louvu is covering a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. And then, you know, even the DBs like Emmanuel Forbes, like, yeah, you know, he gave up a touchdown to Terry McLaurin the other day. And, you know, of course, I think the natural, you know, reaction for most people is, of course, Emmanuel Forbes gave up a touchdown. But the other part of that is Emmanuel Forbes was in really good position, just the ball was better, and Terry McLaurin is Terry McLaurin. So, you know, when a defender gets beat, but they get beat because the offense was just better, you can live with that because that's going to happen from time to time. So I just, you know, I think that up and down the roster so far, you've seen just a lot of potential and a lot of flashes from people on the roster, and that gives you a little bit of confidence moving into, you know, the rest of this week and then next week against the Jets.
Right. And the offensive line, I know that there's not much that you can tell right now without pads. I mean, just kind of going through the motions, but it seems like they've been shuffling some stuff up. What's some interesting combinations that you've seen from them, and what guys have kind of stood out? if they can.
As far as combinations, every combination you can think of, other than
They're,
Tyler Biotis is the center, Sam Cosmi is the right guard. Other than that, it's pretty much a free for all.
as it
Andrew
should
Wiley's
be.
been the right tackle until Friday. Friday he sat out the last 2 or 3 team sessions. No official word from the Commanders on any type of injury or anything, which they don't have to give any official word on injuries right now. So, that's fair. And then today, he didn't participate. Today being Sunday, he didn't participate in any of the team drills, and that really caught people's attention. He talked to Mitch Tisler, JP Finley. I think maybe John Kime was in that group as well. I was talking to Tyler Owens at the time, but we all want to know, and we all, so the first thing you ask is, can we talk to Andrew Wiley? And if you get told yes, it means he's not injured. So you're like, okay, so what's the deal here? And Andrew said he was dealing with some tightness. Didn't say where, but he was dealing with some tightness. So the team's like, hey, let's err on the side of caution. We're going to shut you down for teams. You can do individuals, which he was doing individuals. So that kind of explains that. But in the meantime, they gave Cornelius Lucas some first team right tackle run. Brandon Coleman got some left tackle first team run. Whereas Friday, Brandon Coleman got some first team right tackle run. Like we've seen Michael Dieter at guard. We've seen Michael Dieter be a backup center during some of the reps. Like they really are just kind of moving everybody around and saying, like, where can we see where you fit best? It's almost like if you remember playing Madden, you're going through and like changing a guy's position is be like, right, where can I get you a better rating? Like that's kind of what the Commanders are doing, except it's real life, and they can't just push a button and get told where the guy is better. But it's a fact finding mission, and I think that tomorrow, like I said with pads, is going to tell a lot. I'm really looking forward to it because I've kind of been saying it, like Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler Jr., like he gets fast off the edge. You kind of expect it, right? That's kind of his game. Yeah. Cleveland Farrell's game is not speed. So when he gets in the backfield fast, you're kind of like, hey, good for you, Cleveland, or bad for you, offensive line, right? So now the time is now with the pads on, we can find out, is it bad for you, offensive line, or is it good for you, Cleveland? And we're going to start to figure that, I should say. We're not going to get all of it figured out, but we're going to start to figure that out tomorrow.
Absolutely. And obviously you've been around with the Buccaneers and with Washington over the past couple of years, going through these kind of training camps. And so in your mind, when you go into these training camp practices, David, like each day that you go in, is there like a different positional group that you're going to pay attention to?
Yep, that's exactly what I do. You can't see everything at once. That's kind of the key to it. They start off like, we're kind of getting into the rhythm of a Dan Quinn training camp right now, right? But it appears that the way they start off is they kind of have an open period. So the guys get on the field and they throw the ball around. They might run some routes. They do kind of whatever they want to do to get ready. Then they do some group stretches. And then, the quarterbacks are throwing while everybody's doing that. Then they do the bags that everybody loves so much, and they break into their individual groups. And that's where you get your edge group together, your linebackers, your DBs, all that stuff. And yeah, I try to mix it up. I try to watch a little bit of like one part of the defense, one part of the offense. They've also been doing a lot of special teams, and I don't necessarily worry about watching too much of the offense, to be quite honest with you, because when we're in teams, my main focus usually is Jayden. He's the new quarterback. He's the rookie. So because I'm watching the quarterback so closely, I'm also watching the players that he's playing with, obviously. So in individuals, I tend to lean more towards watching the defense. Plus, guys like Jayden Davis, like I want to see how he can move off of the edge, and I want to kind of see how those moves. Emmanuel Forbes is a big question, so I want to see how his footwork is looking, things like that. And then the linebacker group. I mean, we finally have a linebacker group that's incredibly intriguing, so I want to take advantage of that as well. O-line, I like watching their drills because I like kind of watching the synchronicity and kind of the choreographed movements that are going on there. But again, like we've talked about, right, until there's real pads and until there's a real pass rush, it's kind of hard to really gauge too much from them. So I can't tell you, well, I watch these guys do combo blocks all day, and I can tell you that Brandon Coleman's going to be all pro. That's not something that we can do. So that's kind of how I divvy it up usually.
My man, and then my follow-up question with you, because obviously in teams you've paid a lot of attention to Jayden Daniels. So my question to you, with accuracy, because a lot of people will say that at the professional level, a quarterback's accuracy generally is kind of where you can tell his trajectory in the NFL. So with his accuracy in the team drills, what are you seeing? Are you seeing a consistency in that regard?
Yeah, for the most part, where the ball ends up going, you can connect the dots yourself and say that's probably where you wanted to put the ball based on the route, based on the coverage, and based on just what he's doing himself as a quarterback right now. There's obviously been some passes that have missed. There have been a couple of high passes. Usually if he misses, it's high, which depending on where he's missing can be a little bit dangerous. Today during 7-on-7s, I don't really harp on 7-on-7s too much. Like I like watching them. They're fun and everything, but I don't really give too much stock into it. But he sailed one pretty badly actually on Sunday, and all of us kind of like, where are you doing? I mean, it was Terry. Terry's over there, but like, unless Terry's climbing a ladder as he's running, there's no way. So I don't know what happened on that ball, but everybody, is entitled to a bad ball, right? So you just kind of, you're like, that was weird, and you move on with it, and the rest of his day after that was pretty solid. So
have you a fan of?
He looks pretty accurate.
Have you ever seen Super Troopers?
Yes.
I knew that one scene where he shows him the shooting target. He brings up the paper and you see it like that little guy. I wouldn't worry about that little guy. And that's what you're saying.
Oh,
with
yeah,
Daniels missed. Yes.
I mean, look, in the Army, like I was notorious for when we were zeroing our rifles. You want to get a 3-round shot group into, the smallest circle as you possibly can. And I had this nasty habit of I would nail 2 and I would kick 1. And I don't know why I did it, but as soon as I got on the qualifying range, I was golden. I'd hit, if I missed more than 2, it would be a bad day. So once I'm engaged in the actual target, like it's fine. But yeah, for whatever reason, zeroing, which you can consider practice if you want to, like I would just kick that 3rd round. And technically, you're not zeroed unless you get all 3 into that group. But once people got to know me, they're like, all right, dude, you're good. Just go away. And I go out there on the qualifying range, get my expert badge, and move on. So like I said, everybody's entitled to that one little guy, like you mentioned, and Jayden's certainly had some of those. But for the most part, he looks the part, he looks in control, and he looks accurate. So
yeah, it seems like the team's taking to him really well as well. Like he's earning their respect fairly early. Has there been any surprises so far? Any players, good or bad, that you either expected to see more from or that are overachieving?
So I want to stick with the good right now, right? Like we haven't put pads on, we haven't had real competition yet. So I do have some unfortunate kind of observations that I'm kind of holding back a little bit just to kind of see what's going to happen. But I don't want to harp on that too much right at this level. Tyler Owens has been a really, really, really impressive player. And I can't lie and say that I'm not happy about it because he's somebody that I predicted ahead of training camp might be an impressive player. So I'm very happy that he's making me sound more intelligent than I actually am.
Undrafted free agent, right?
Yep,
super
undrafted free agent safety
right?
out of Texas Tech, and doesn't have a lot of experience as a safety going back to his college days. And I think that's a lot of reasons, that maybe he did slip out of the draft. And actually talked to him on Sunday. There's an interview with him. It's only a couple of minutes, but an interview with him at the end of my episode that I dropped on Sunday afternoon. And I just keep watching him make plays, and so I keep saying to myself, I got to go talk to him. Very first day of training camp, he comes screaming on the edge, going up against the second team offensive line completely untouched. So somebody missed a check somewhere, right? Like the offensive line should have shifted. Somebody missed it, things like that. And that's where you get better. But he came screaming off the edge so fast that Jayden got the ball, went to hit his drop, and Tyler Owens is in his face so fast, Jayden couldn't even move. Like Jayden was basically stunned and just essentially stood there. Like, if that's a real play, Tyler Owens just planted your quarterback in the backfield. Thankfully, that wasn't a thing. But if you watch that interview, I bring up the play. And again, this play was first day of training camp, so it's nearly a week old. And as soon as I start talking about the play, Tyler gets a smile on his face. So he remembers it. But he's been around the ball. He got an interception, on Sunday. So he's just doing all the right things. And I think that, whenever you talk to an undrafted rookie or a practice squad guy who's just trying to make the squad and try to get better, like you always tell them, like at the end of the day, like 10th grade level, just be where you're supposed to be. Like that's the main thing you need to focus on. Be where you're supposed to be, because the coaches are going to teach you where to go. So if you're where they're telling you to go, they're going to have confidence sending you more places. Tyler Owens is doing that right now, and I think he's making a lot of room for himself. And if he continues this trajectory, he's going to threaten to take a roster spot.
That's interesting, because that's exactly what Anthony Armstrong said. And as we know, I mean, he made the team. He was undrafted as well, and he said the exact same thing. He was like, these guys, you only get so many chances. So when you do it, as long as just do your job. It's like the plays will come, but do your job. They want to know that they can rely on you. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, and then David, to wrap this up, only a couple more questions for you, sir. But kicker, it's kind of been talked about a little bit. On a level of 0 to 10, how big of a concern level do you have at the moment with that position?
6.
Okay.
I don't think Ramiz Ahmed has the leg that you're going to need consistently in the NFL. And to a certain extent, that might be a little bit unfair, right? We haven't seen a whole lot of kicks out of him, but the kicks that we have seen, if he's hitting the 40, 50-yard range, which, again, you hope to not be kicking from that far, but we all know that in the NFL, you may need to kick from that far. It just doesn't look like he's at the leg. He's very much like He's having to kick it on a very low trajectory, which, is obviously what they're trying to do when they're trying to get more power behind it and all those things. The way I kind of compare it right now, it kind of looks like the Taylor Heineke arm version of a kicker's leg, right? Like he can do some things and all that, but I'd like to see some competition, and again, it's a little bit unfair because we haven't seen a whole lot of that of them. So that's a big grain of salt to take with that.
Right.
But I would like to see them bring in competition, whether it's Bullock, who's still out there, a veteran, or a guy like Zayden Gonzalez if he's healthy. Finally, he's been out of the league for a couple of years because he was dealing with a lot of injuries, something like that. Or, I don't know who it would be, but I would like to see the Commanders bring in kicking competition. The problem is if you do that, you got to get rid of somebody. And right now, like, you're going through all these processes of trying to figure out who's a fit and where you're going to use guys. And if you don't have, too much of a solid foundation of where you're going to use all these pieces, you don't know who to get rid of. So that's obviously, it's easier said than done for me sitting out here, but I think that's probably the biggest hang up of why you're not bringing in kicking competition. And maybe after, a preseason game, let's give him some opportunities and see how he performs there in the actual game environment. And, who knows, by then, maybe I'm singing a different tune, but right now, just to me, it just doesn't look like enough. You know what I mean? Especially with a rookie quarterback, you're going to need him to hit some 40-yarders, some 45-yarders, and I don't see that that's going to be a thing consistently.
And then who's the right now after a week? Who's the biggest personality on the practice field?
New guys or familiar guys included? Anybody. I mean, Revo, right? Like,
yeah, he is.
Jeremy Reeves. I mean, he's the biggest personality wherever he goes. That's how Jeremy Reeves at the gas station. He's the biggest personality at the gas station. Yeah, I mean, I think it's Revo. I mean, I think, if you have to talk like new people, I mean, like Jayden actually has like a really good personality. He is a little bit reserved, but like when he gets excited, when he starts having fun, like he's got a pretty good personality as well. I think Sam Hartman has a little bit of personality. I haven't really got to interact with him too much, but just watching he and Jayden specifically kind of go back.
He's a complete package, man. He's got the looks and the personality. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
So unfair.
It's like two brothers on the field together, like they're just competing in everything. It doesn't matter if it's garbage cans or nets or whatever they're doing, like they're competing and everything. So those guys, I think, have pretty good personalities. Cleland's got some swag to him. Cleland's definitely got some swag to him. Seeing him walk off with the earbuds in off the practice field and the sunglasses on is pretty legit. He's definitely got some personality to him. So yeah, there's a lot of personalities on the field. But I think it's still got to say Revo takes the cake.
My man. Last one I have for you. I know it's only been a week and it's kind of hard to make this sort of judgment, but based on what you have seen, what is the identity of the team thus far?
Aggression. Everything they're going to do is going to be aggressive. Like nothing is going to be on accident. Everything they do is going to be on purpose, and everything that they do is going to have an intent. And you see it all the way down from the way they practice, like not just the way they practice, but the practice schedule, right? Like first day of practice, they were only out there for an hour, 20 minutes. Like they got finished, and literally everybody stayed on the sideline. We're all looking at our watches. We're like, that's it. Like we barely got started, and it's because they came out and they said, this is what we're going to do. Once we do that, we're done. And then we're come out the next day, and we're going to ramp it up. And we're going to ramp it up all the way into today, and then tomorrow with pads on. Like everything this team is doing is by design, and it's with a specific intent in mind. Everything is controlled, but it's controlled chaos, and that's what you're going to see on the field.
My man, absolutely love it. David, I can't thank you enough for joining us again on Sunday. And, we just interviewed you a couple weeks ago, but obviously that felt well, we got before the bullet there, and we wanted to make sure that we got your thoughts on training camp before we start moving forward. No one better that we could have asked, given a lot of great information, sir. I apologize about the network issues early on. But before you get out of here, would you like to plug in your social media handle and your show? And just in case anybody watching hasn't followed you yet.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. Locked On Commanders 5 days a week. I mean, during training camp, basically, if there's a practice, there's an episode. If there's not a practice, there's still maybe an episode, but I'm not going to guarantee it. As far as social media, D Harrison 82 is my Twitter handle. If you want to go over there, I don't tweet too much, but sometimes I do. And then CommanderGameDay.com, Sports Illustrated, is where I do my writing. Appreciate you.
My man, David, have a great week, man. Enjoy pad practice tomorrow. Very jealous of you.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Have a good one. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. David Harrison. Always appreciate his time. It's always
I'm jealous because he got to see Sam Hartman up close and personal.
And it's funny because he said that about Jayden. He said that about somebody else, and like you didn't have any change in facial expression. As soon as he brought up Sam Hartman, you started smiling. If
Because
I was
the boy does something to me, Kyle. I don't know what it
I
is,
know
but it
if I
makes
was a
me feel
psychologist,
something.
I'd be like, there's something going on there. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I'll tell you what it is that he's a sexy ass guy.
I guess you're right. I guess I couldn't.
No, he's cool though. I remember watching Sam Hartman when he was on that Netflix show, QB1 Beyond the Lights. He was on it the year Justin Fields was on it, and
Oh,
he
I
was
know what
cool. It
you're
was
talking about. That
interesting
was the
watching
time
that.
you ran out of lotion. I remember. I
Yeah, yeah,
remember.
yeah. But see, back then he was just a hot little twink. Now he's a bearded man. Kyle,
That changes the game a little bit,
it
doesn't it?
changes the game a little bit. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Now let's get into fan questions to wrap up this show. I do miss Hall here because Hall would probably would have ran laps with that one. This question from the Colonel read: how much are we scouting the UFL to plug roster depth holes? For example, I just learned that the Cowboys signed a pair of wide receivers with NFC ties, including former Redskin Kelvin Harmon, who I really liked. What are your thoughts?
I think you always got to keep an eye on it. I mean, a bunch of former players, a bunch of guys, they can go in there and they can play football. And sometimes, I mean, it doesn't click right away as soon as you leave college, and you just need a little bit more seasoning as a person before you kind of get it down. And people have had success and been decent players going from the UFL or back in the day, the European Football League into the NFL. So I think you always got to keep an eye on it. But yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm not keeping an eye on any of them boys. I say I don't watch anything other than NFL and college football. So I say, huh, get out of here. I don't care about this peasant stuff, you know.
Well, and I
But
think
as a
you're
scout, you should.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, especially with this front office that has shown to go the extra mile and being able to break down these prospects and who they want to bring in and who fits into their system. Obviously, they're going to be looking at the UFL. They're going to be looking at guys that are not currently on a roster, right? And looking to always bring somebody in. But I do think it's funny that the Cowboys, like, they brought in wide receivers, right? And they have running back issues. I think they just lost a DN today as well, which horrible for them.
Yeah.
Sam Williams, I'm sure Dan Quinn and Joe Witt know him personally, but it's just unfortunate that that young man is out for the season, and that's something you always got to keep your eye out for, Colonel, and that's where the UFL kind of does help you out a little bit because that was our whole thing with players complaining that they weren't given the right kind of they weren't given the right deck of cards with the NFL. They were blacklisted, so to speak. Well, if that's true, then why aren't you going out there and still working like these guys in the UFL? Putting tape out there, allowing for teams to be able to see how you're doing at the moment instead of waiting for a call for a workout. You should be going out there, and if you really love football, that's what you're doing. You're going and playing football because that's what you want to do. And so, obviously, they need to be looking at the UFL. And the question at this point is, we just got Ramiz Ahmed from the UFL, right? It's like that's the kind of thing where it's like yes, you're going to plug up guys from the UFL, but can you guarantee they're going to be able to play at a pro level right away? Not 100% guaranteed, but that's one of those other positions that you have to look at to say, can we bring it? Because isn't there a kicker out there that was knocking down 60-yard field goals?
Yeah, I feel like he signed somewhere though.
Oh, maybe he did. I think I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think you did too.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, yeah, especially kickers. Like kickers, I feel like would be so easy to kind of see like the if they can make the jump to the NFL because it's kicking. It's not you're not a real athlete, and so I think that'll be probably the best bet.
Yeah, and I'm very happy for Kelvin Harmon,
Oh
God-fearing
yeah,
man, and
yeah.
he obviously deserves the opportunity to show himself in the NFL, and hopefully he does stick with the Cowboys. It's going to be unfortunate when we play him, of course. Hate seeing Kelvin, big-bodied guy, not the fastest in the world, but a good route runner and catches the football. That's somebody that could be on the receiving end of a big hit coming in that Dallas game. I hope he's just not susceptible to that. You know what I mean? Now, the next question from the Colonel. Reed, this is a really good one. If you had to break down what you're most excited about for the 24 season, what would it be? For me, I'm super excited about seeing a potential offensive juggernaut. Our tight ends, receivers, and backs are all sick talented. And I understand we have a real battle for the third running back with Jeremy Nichols, giving Chris Rodriguez a run for his money. But still have major questions about the offensive line. What about you?
Yeah, I think the easy answer obviously is I would say Jayden and just what he can bring, but I'm going to go a little different route, and I'm going to say this team's identity just in general. Like I really think that like with this coaching staff and with the players that they brought in on the types of contracts that they brought them in, that this is going to be a team that is constantly in it. They might not win a lot of games, but they're going to be a team that you don't want to play because you know that they're just going to grind you down. They're going to be physical. They're going to be tough, and that's kind of what I'm most excited about. Is I'm just kind of building a foundation to kind of go forward from and kind of set the tone from here on out.
Yeah, and to your credit, like the one thing you thought about Jay Gruden's teams when Kirk Cousins was here, um, was that like you always thought about that iconic picture of Deshaun Jackson pinching his nipple, right? And like that's the kind of what we were like. We weren't a hard hitting, we weren't an aggressive kind of team. It was much more offensive based kind of identity. And looking at this 24 season, Colonel, I'm really looking forward to seeing the Island of Misfit Toys because me personally, just like the way that I am as a person in a personality speaking sense, I love the identity of that, of a bunch of dudes with a lot to prove and everyone counting them out, so to speak. Not including Agent Zero, but the fact is that they're coming in here with a mindset and something to prove and wanting to do something, and that can be very not crucial, but that could be damning for other teams because these are guys that aren't coming in with the accolades. These are guys that aren't coming in with the awards and being looked at from the NFL Top 100 as being listed and plastered all over the field, all over the list. Fact is that's fine. They could label you whatever you want, but when we match up against you on Sunday, we're gonna knock your frickin' teeth out. And that's the sort of thing that I'm looking forward to with this football team is not only the capabilities on offense, but the fact of having that defense structured the way that it is. Having the two interior defensive linemen who are hungry to frickin' win, man, that are tired of being at the bottom of the list in terms of winning as a football team and not having much behind them. Adding Bobby Wagner here, something that we have screamed about for years, saying that we needed that kind of captain, that leader on the defense to be able to call things out, to help guys out. And I thought the craziest thing was Bobby Wagner I heard Jayden Daniels talk about this in his presser the other day, that after Jayden did a check down to a running back, and Bobby came up to him after the play and was letting him know that I knew that you were throwing that check down because of the defense that we were in, what we were setting up for you, most likely a zone coverage, I knew that that's where your eyes were going to go. And that is something that is crucial for a rookie quarterback because when the bullets are flying and you kind of feel comfortable in that setting, a vet player could be able to know that's going to happen and jump on that. And Jayden doesn't even realize it. So now Jayden kind of has to, adapt to the NFL. And that's that sort of mindset and insight that is crucial and just priceless for a young quarterback. So I think just, Colonel, I am so excited to see how this works, to see them as one. Because like I've said before, like that's all I'm focused on is this team playing as one. They all have one specific identity, and that's what they're playing for. And obviously that's what we are very invested into seeing what comes into fruition with that. But the fact of what they have brought in, just a hungry bunch of frickin' dogs. I said this to my mom today. Thirsty dogs run faster. And this is a team that's all thirsty. They all need a drink of water, and that water is sitting at the end of the 18 games season, and they're ready to be able to get that water and drink it. But the fact is that they're not there yet. They're having fun while they're doing it, and they have the right pieces in place to really surprise people. This isn't about talking. This isn't about saying what you want to do. This is about doing what you do. And I think that that's what all of them are very interested and eager to be able to get on the field and prove. And I just hope that we keep the right mindset, and I think that we have the coaching staff for it, to implement that. Because going back to that Jay Gruden days, we didn't have that bloodthirsty type of mentality. Well, that defensive coordinator back there is telling you exactly what they're going to be doing. They're jumping dudes. And I wish I could get into that pile, man, because that would be freaking awesome.
I bet you do wish you could get it.
Dude, as soon as
You said that, you're like, God damn it.
as soon as
No, but Joe Wick could get, dude, that guy. I'm
as soon
so
as I
excited
said
to
it,
see him
man.
on Sunday.
As soon as I
Yeah.
said it.
Mhm. I'm so excited to see him post game and pregame. Just what he's Joe Witt. I wish I would see him more right now. Joe Witt's such a he can talk me into anything. I'd run through a wall for him, and of course I'm fat and blind, so I'd probably go through that wall. But
Yeah, I would argue against. It's funny as I told my wife what Lindsay said to you about the upside down ice cream cone.
the ice cream
She was
cone.
like, "That's
Yeah.
so mean," and I was like,
It
"Well,
was,
it's Reed,
yeah,
though."
yeah. It was funny. I thought it was funny. I was like, damn, good for you. An ice cream cone melting upwards. I said,
I
touche.
I couldn't imagine the things that she has to hear on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
Now let's go to the third question from the Colonel. He says, "I have a non-related question to the Washington Commanders. What do you guys think about the quarterback battle in Pittsburgh between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields?"
I think it's good for Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? I've seen some highlights of them. I saw Uh, Justin Fields, I think missing deep downfield. And then I saw one of him just a dot, which is kind of what you expect from him. He's very inconsistent, but his physical tools are just so outstanding that it's interesting. Like if he puts it all together, watch out. But Russell Wilson running away from pressure. By the way, Russell Wilson is jacked now. I don't like that. I like thinking of Russell Wilson as a short, little tubby guy. Uh, so I mean, it's interesting. It's good. I think it's good for Pittsburgh. I mean, will they compete in that division? I don't think so. That's just the reality of the situation. I don't think those quarterbacks are Joe Burrow or Lamar or but maybe Deshaun Watson. I don't know, but I mean, good for Pittsburgh. I haven't been paying too much attention to them because I don't care about them boys.
Yeah,
But
which is funny because my wife's stepdad is a big Steelers fan, and he was
mhm.
telling me some rumors about the wide receivers being in Tomlin's ear about the type of quarterbacks that they wanted to bring in. And of course, that's not always the way that you want to go about it, right? My brother actually said this to me something years ago, where I think it was one of his teammates had made a comment about a particular quarterback you can't win Super Bowls with. And I told Michael straight up, my little brother off bat, I said, that's stupid. If you're looking at it in that sort of way, you've already lost. Because you want winners, and that's what you want. There's no sort of shallowness to it. There's something in everybody. Doug Williams, so to speak, championship caliber guy, right? And that's my whole
Yeah.
thought process with that is saying that is kind of ridiculous. But I loved what I saw today, where I saw a Pittsburgh Steelers account say that could they be running a two quarterback offense with Justin Fields at running back, kind of that option, but with Justin. And I've said this many times that it's an indefensible offense because you have to imagine if you have a quarterback playing running back that can throw the football, if your offensive line is smart enough to stay behind the line of scrimmage on those plays, you can really do damage against some defenses because the bloodthirstiness, trying to get something done, that really opens you up on the back end. If you have a quarterback capable of doing that, it can be crucial, but it's hard to do in the NFL with how fast everybody is. So many moving parts, so many checks and options. So it's hard for everyone to be on the same page without a lot of penalties happening. But I will say this. I like their line of thinking. By bringing in Russell Wilson and then also adding Justin Fields for pennies, really speaks to a smart way of going about business of having a backup plan just in case that first one falls through, right? And you have something there in reserve. And I think that's really smart of them to do. And that's probably what they're looking at the moment. I've said this for a while. The Steelers organization altogether, their championships were based on defense. And we saw with Big Ben, Antonio Brown, in that era, they were offensive heavy. That's where their identity was. And were they winning championship games? Were they getting loud or far into the playoffs? They were not. And that's where my thought process here is they're getting back to that defensive identity with TJ Watt. And they've done a good job of doing that. But can they pick it up offensively to be able to do that? Not 100% sure. But I really do hope that Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, they're able to do well for themselves, just not against Washington, of course. I don't mind seeing them in the Super Bowl. I know we can beat them. But just saying, I wish them the best, of course. Nothing else? You got nothing on that?
No, nothing else. I don't have anything snarky to say about him.
Okay,
I
I was
will
about.
say Russell Wilson looks like such a pussy, even when he's jacked. He looks like he gets jump scared reading horror novels. You know what I'm saying? He looks like he's just reading. He's like, "Ooh, I didn't see that coming." You know, I wonder if that's ever happened. Do you
Which
think
is
anybody's
funny
ever?
because that Subway commercial, he was Danger Russ, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
saying that he's the complete
No,
opposite.
come on, man. Come on. Nobody's scared of Carlton. Like,
That's that's messed up. Next question from Deluxe in the Discord. What position group battle are you most excited to watch?
uh, I'm still excited for tight end. I think that
I'm
you
sure
just
you
have so
are.
many different. Yeah, you know how much I love those. Just we have so many different flavors. I mean, you've got Bates, you've got who's a blocker, you've got Ertz, who's a wily veteran who just seems to catch everything in his path, but isn't going to wow you with his athletic ability. You got Sanat, who's kind of like a Chris Cooley type H back who can move around. You got Cole Turner, who is a physical freak of nature and he's got the size. You got Armani Rogers, who's a former quarterback. He's also an athletic specimen, but smaller than Cole Turner. So it's very interesting to see who's going to get a majority of the reps and how slowly they bring along Sanat because I think that the tight end position, just having all those different types of players, I think is really going to make this offense a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, and I saw some reports that Armani Rogers was making diving catches at practice,
Yeah.
which is awesome for him. I hope that he continues to produce because Pressure creates diamonds, in the wise words
He
of
got playing time his rookie year because he was making plays in camp.
right. And so like that's the sort of thing where it's like you're gonna just make guys perform more and more with that sort of level from a guy you're looking as possibly on the bubble, right? But for me personally, I'm looking at the defensive end battle, Arch, and the reason for that is I think that this pass rush is going to be crucial for this Washington team. It's funny because in Deron Payne's interview today after practice in his presser, he talked about Darryl Tapp's coaching and how guys aren't just standing around wasting time. The way that they're doing these drills, they're really working and they're getting after it. And that's something that's music to my ears because one thing that I was learned when I was on D-line, learning from one of the best coaches that I ever played under, and Coach Belcher, who's up in, I think he's at Tuscarora in Frederick right now. As he said, defensive linemen are the biggest freaks and the best athletes on the field. Nobody else has to go against the size, the strength that we do, but we also have to get after the quarterback, which is one of the most athletic guys on the field as well. Nobody is asked to do what we do, and that's why the defensive linemen are blood seekers. That's why they are a different animal. They are freaks of nature, and that's the sort of thing that you want to see developed here. And so if I'm looking at those defensive ends. I'm looking at the defensive tackle because of how many guys that they brought in and how many they have at the moment with a lot of talent, former first-round picks sitting there, island of misfit toys, ready to get to work. And so I'm really excited to see how he talked about Dante Fowler, Clellan Ferrell as well. We have Dorrance Armstrong, which not a lot of people have talked about thus far from training camp. And we have some other guys there that are in rotation that could really do some damage. Andre himself. I'm really excited to see how these DNs work out because, the cream always rises to the top, right? And so I'm really excited to see how they do because the further that the DNs push and produce, the better this defense and the offense is long-term in this season and looking forward.
Yeah, especially if, like you talk about athleticism at that position, that's so true too. I mean, there's no other positions have Miles Garrett. They don't have Julius Pepper. Like these guys are strong, fast, athletic, can jump, can do whatever. They're just certified freaks of nature. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's a scary thing, man. I know I wouldn't want to be one-on-one with Miles Garrett in any situation ever for anything.
Imagine if he had a helmet in his hand and swinging at you.
Yeah, dude, I'm surprised what's his face is alive. Zach Randolph. That's who it was, right? Yeah, because I don't know.
He
He's lucky
still
he was
has a
wearing a
dent in
helmet.
his head, dude. I'm
Yeah,
telling you. It's like
yeah,
getting hit by a car or a bus, I would
yeah,
imagine.
dude. Yeah.
Next question from Tim Towner. What is your job now? And if given the opportunity, the skill, and the money, what other job would you rather be doing to satisfy and complete yourself?
I'm not allowed to talk about my job because, government. What are you gonna do?
Shut up.
I was hired. I was hired to pull the trigger on that faithful. No, I'm just kidding.
Come on, man.
Nah, man, I'm working the corner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and if I was given more money and more skill, what I like to do, I would like to continue to work the corner. I would go from being an assistant crack board to a regular crack. No, I'm just kidding. No, I work in a bench warehouse in Frederick, and fun. It's fun. And if I was given skills, what would I like to do? Well, I have been gaining weight for a movie role. No specific movie role, but every movie needs a giant fat guy. So hopefully one day they'll call me.
Is there any Star Wars coming out? You're going to be Jabba the Hutt?
No, I'm gonna be the Brendan Fraser in The Whale 2.
I haven't seen the first one. I don't know what that is, but I don't
You've
need
never
to.
seen The Whale?
No.
Greatest opening scene in cinematic history. Just trust me, just watch it.
No, not especially the
No,
way you're laughing about it. Because last
yeah.
time I watched one of your videos, I don't want to click. I don't want to watch another one,
The
man.
gas station video. The
Yes.
opening scene of The Whale, it gives fucking what is that? Oh my God, why can't I think of it? Storm of Normandy's opening scene. Saving Private Ryan. It gives
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan's opening scene a run for its money. That's all I'll say. Opening scene of The Whale.
The only one that gives Saving Private Ryan a run for its opening scene money is Gladiator.
Yeah, we'll
Gladiator's
watch The Whale.
Okay, but Gladiator's opening scene is absolutely
Yeah.
awesome. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, the opening scene of The Whale, he's some like 800-pound dude trying to crank down to some trying to crank down to some trying to crank down to some homosexual porno. And somebody walks in and he's so fat he can't close his laptop. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, Ooh, he's all fat.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm definitely not watching.
Come on, Kyle.
Dude, how come you always watch those types? I don't. It's just I don't. I think it's just the
I'm a
universe.
bit of a xenophile.
Yeah, I could tell. What is my job now? Well, technically, I'm a low voltage electrician for a motorized shade well, it's a shade company, but specialty in programming and running low voltage wire and making these big motorized jobs work. I know it sounds crazy enough as it is, but when you have over 1,000 different devices all having to talk to one another, it gets very intricate. And the wires that you're running, there's 8 different separate wires in each one, and you're talking about 2,000 in total. If you have 1,000 motors, you're doing 2 at each. It gets into a lot, and so a lot of can go wrong. But I specialize in programming with the computer to make them all work in the right way and running the wire. And but I also, at the moment, since I've moved to Delaware, they don't have as much of electrical division as we did in Rockville. So whenever those jobs do come up, I'm obviously going to get them. But at the moment, I've been doing more of the installation side and working with, and that's really helped me get more tuned with the actual physical aspect of it all, and getting really up to date with what I need to be self-sustainable, so to speak, in the company. Because I've always thought, like, if something were to go down, uh, economy-wise, the electrical division was going to be the first to go because they're a shade company, right? So, but this would kind of helps in that regard. But if I had the means to do I'm not really sure. I've had some close people tell me that I should apply to a certain entity to be looking at things, and that would really, really be awesome to be able to be briefed on military operations, to be able to see these things, break them down, and to be able to witness them, as much as it's horrific and absolutely tragic situations most times than not. But that would be really a fun job to do to kind of help not only with people on the ground, but also just our country in general and actually giving back to the country. I think that not only would it be noble and I feel like an honor to do that as well, but also just something that would really interest me, obviously, because if you know me personally, that's one thing that I really like. I like to go through history and seeing these sort of things and because a lot of the times when I see these things, I have a lot of questions. And so it'd be better for me to be able to see things myself, and it would really interest me. But at the same time, I'm sure that it'd bring me down in some sort of sense, and just knowing the reality of situations. But I haven't acted on it, but that would be one really cool thing to
I,
do for me personally.
I hear the Secret Service is hiring. You can work for them.
They would not hire me, you know that. I'm not tall enough. Well,
Yeah, that's.
well, maybe under the past one, I could have.
I was about to say this last one though. You could easily get hired at.
Yeah,
That's
but I don't want to be there with. Well, actually, no, with you shooting around, I don't know about that.
yeah, yeah. You never
Like,
know.
oh, there he is. There, I got him.
I would say there he is, 10-4.
That's why. Now
I
the
hope you'll
next
pull
question.
Mark Wahlberg.
The next. I'm so sorry. That's so bad. Next question from Tim Towner. Buy or sell yellow/gold uniforms, pants, jerseys, helmets, shoes, gloves, anything. Buy or
What do you
sell.
mean? I love the yellow pants. I love the yellow. I don't know how if they're ever going to wear that with the white jerseys. I hope not. I haven't seen what that would look like. I can't imagine it would look good because there's not enough yellow on the white jerseys for it to actually look like it, you know. But I love the yellow bottoms of the burgundy tops. And then if they could bring back like a throwback helmet, like the one with the R, the old school one, I'd be all for that.
I'm with you there. The I was vehemently against the gold pants before, just because of how we played. On every single time I went to a Washington game and I saw that we were wearing gold pants, it's like, oh no, here we go again.
Yeah.
And that's typically how it went. But like the old Deion Sanders thing, look good, play good, play good, get paid good. And so that's how my mindset was. But after this last rollout with the current jersey, it does really make a lot of sense, and I actually like the look a lot. But like the yellow helmet with those gold pants and the white jersey, that hits. Especially with the old retro jersey, that hits. And that just goes together so well. Like you said, there's not much gold going on in the white jersey currently, so I'm not sure how that would look together. But I'll say this: I think the spear, like if you bring back the spear jersey that they had, like the Darryl Green 28th anniversary one, that would absolutely knock out of the park, dude. I think that would hit hard. But with
Yeah, yeah.
shoes, me personally, with shoes, especially the cleats, I love white cleats. I think the way the white cleats look, they're fantastic. Whenever I'm in Madden, I never do black cleats. It's always white cleats. I think it just makes everything else pop more. But with the gold cleats, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's gonna do some damage as well. But for me personally, I'm more of a white cleat kind of guy, especially with my shoes. People make fun of me, my old white guy, white Walker shoes. And
Hmm.
look, man, I'm a simple human. What can I say?
Yeah, I do love a nice gold sleeve, a nice gold pair of gold gloves. I'm all for that. Nice gold mouthpiece. I love that. Those go with anything,
There's
you know.
no better mouthpiece than Pierre Garcon's in
Well, yeah,
2012
obviously.
when
Yeah.
he had
The f-
the
the
animal
fangs and
teeth
stuff. Yeah.
mouthpiece. My goodness, I was like, dude, if I was still playing ball, I would have that immediately.
That'll be so
All
tight.
right, but
Yeah.
you can't be like I could not stand guys who had a mouthpiece playing flag football. Like, come on,
Yeah,
man,
why the hell would you do that?
dude. There were some people who did that, and it's
I believe
very
it. I
weird.
definitely believe it.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Not as
I don't
weird as
like
you
it.
watching The Whale, but
Yeah.
same weird thing.
It's a great movie.
Sure it is. Next question from Chris Comerton. Anyone catch Payne's interview and notice what he said about Tap's drills? Basically said his drills actually have merit and they aren't just doing things to waste time and it's helping them in shape. Maybe I'm not reading too much into it, but that says a lot about the previous coaching staff and their practices.
Yeah, and I mean, also you would kind of expect that Daryl Tapp played in the NFL fairly recently, so like he knows what these guys what helps players on the field this day and age in this current NFL, and he knows what can get the best out of guys and what will actually help them the most. So I love that. I think that's huge. But yes, it does say a lot about the Ron Rivera staff.
Well, Coach Scanina, and there's been others. I'm not sure if Tom Sula was the same way. I know that Deron Payne and John Allen speak highly of Jim
Yeah.
Tom Sula when he was here coaching them early on in their career. And there's probably one of the best memes ever or videos ever. What does he say? Oh my
What?
goodness. F him is what when he's running when he's so pissed off. He's like, F him. You never seen that video?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, dude, it's one of the best gifts out there.
It's
It's
Tom
so awesome.
Sula.
Yeah, it's Tom Sula. Yeah,
Tom
when he was
Sula's so tight.
shaved. But I'll say this: like, I don't think that we need to be looking back in that regard. Let's just be looking forward, and the fact that we have well-paid interior defensive linemen who are talking about the new staff in this way. Because think about it: if you are a well-accomplished, well-succeeded, well-paid person, and you have somebody coming in over top of you, and they are forcing you run around like dogs, you know, most guys with high accolades would be sitting there saying, "Man, why is this dude on me so much? Like, why do I have to do all this? You know what I can do." And that's not what Deron Payne is saying here. And Deron Payne is saying, like, I embrace it. I love the fact that we're doing this not to waste time, not to stand around and do our favorite impression of Albert Hainsworth just laying on the turf. Like, we are getting after it and we're getting to work. And I think that speaks a lot to the identity of the football team right now. It's just a lot of willing workers ready to get their hand in the dirt and get dirty and jump some dudes. And that's the mentality, and I love the mindset of it all. I think Daryl Tapp, I talked about this, was probably one of our undercover coaches that is a huge, not detriment, but going to be a huge addition to this football team. And Daryl Tapp of Virginia Tech Hokie, the lunch pail mentality that Coach Foster brought to Virginia Tech. Obviously, Daryl Tapp is bringing that to the defensive line, and that he has a great group to be working under him, where the two top leaders are eager to be working, and then that speaks a lot to where we are as a football team, and everything starts in the trenches. And so if they're willing to go 100 miles an hour all the freaking time, that's what they're trained to do. They practice every day doing that. I feel bad for some offensive linemen. They're going to have to stand up there on every snap and have to go to town with those guys because they're going to give them a run for their money. And so, yes, it's awesome to hear Deron Payne talk about Daryl Tapp that way and their drills that they're going through. I think in psychology standpoint, I think that says a heck of a whole lot. Next question, last one that we have. Reed, thoughts on Castro Fields? This is from Big Tony Shivers. Thank you, Tone. Thoughts on Castro Fields? He wasn't on my radar, but keep seeing positive reports on him from the beat folks.
Yeah, I mean that's huge. I mean, obviously, he probably has a relationship, I would imagine, with Adam Peters because Adam Peters worked with a lot of the late round guys, undrafted guys in San Francisco. Of course, he was drafted there last year out of Penn State, and I mean, Dude, I heard he was getting some runs with the ones, and that's huge. Obviously, they still have to put on pads, but I mean, that's huge, man. He's always been highly talented. I mean, he was supposed to be a fairly high draft pick the year before, like that entire season beforehand. He was talked about a lot. So I'm excited to see it, man. I hope he can string it together. Obviously, any help you can get, especially in the secondary, it's huge.
I heard that he was an Adam Peters draft pick in particular, which obviously raises questions in your hair a little bit more on the back of your neck because that maybe that it is a guy that could find his way in here as a special teams contributor and even be getting some playing time. I saw some account today say that Forbes and St. Juice were the starting corners out on for 11 on 11s on defense, which is great to hear. But yeah, we have been hearing that Castro Fields has been making plays out there, and good for him because he picked the right time to be able to do so in training camp. But we've heard this many, many times that there's some guys that ball out in practice, like I've seen it myself, that ball out in practice, but when the lights come on in front of that crowd, it's a different kind of player. And you have to take that into consideration a little bit, but that's where joint practices comes into play because you can't be jumping everything that you want to jump. You're kind of second guessing yourself a little bit, and it's almost mimicking to a real time game and the lights being on. So if Castro Fields can continue making these plays, I think that he's somebody that you definitely got to keep an eye on because he is a surprise thus far in training camp with all the everybody that they've brought in. I don't think anybody had Castro Fields in their bingo card. Saying that he was going to be the one making a lot of plays, right? And no disrespect to him, just saying, Last one. This is one last one real quick. This is from Tim Towner. We didn't answer in the last episode, but I do think it's a good one. Joe Witt likes DBs who are good hard tacklers. Run through the guys still here from last year. Who do you think was best and who should be worried?
Of the guys that were here last year,
Yeah. The DBs.
I don't remember too many corners. I don't remember too many corners making many tackles. I know Emmanuel Forbes, shout out to him. He tried for a while. He was just too small. Yeah, off the top of my head, I mean, I can't remember. I remember that being a pretty big weakness.
Well, Derek Forrest by far. And then
Well,
also,
okay, I thought we were talking corners, just corners.
well, no, just DBs.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Obviously, Derek Forrest can lay some lumber. He's always been a pretty good tackler. And then you got to feel good about just Quan Martin and just his physical
Thank you.
ability and his ability to play up close to the line of scrimmage.
Well, I will say this. Last season, Quan Martin was making some crucial freaking hits from deep safety. And what we've heard thus far is that they've had him primarily at safety. And I love the idea of that because that's where a lot of his plays were coming in last season. We saw, I can even see it in the back of my head now, where he comes up from free safety on, I think it was like a 3rd and long. He comes up and drills a linebacker in center, not linebacker, wide receiver in center field, lodges, gets the ball incomplete to be able to get the defense off the field. And that's something I consistently saw out of Quan in just a little amount of time that he was on the field. But that's somebody who produces in this hard tackling. And back going to his Illinois days, he was all over the field, dude. And so the fact is that's another worker in himself. So I think those two in particular are going to be hard hitters and guys that are willing to do it. And then we heard our guest Mike talk about, or Mark McCauley, he talked about Mike Sainristil and his ability to hit and lay some wood, and especially some bigger guys too. And so that's somebody else you got to keep in mind just looking forward. I know it wasn't your question, just guys that were here before. But Emmanuel Forbes, when he was in college, he was a good tackler. He was willing to come up and make plays on the run. He was willing to come up and make on big running backs. Last season, not so much. Obviously, his frame was a little bit of an issue, but the rumor is that he's gained 17 pounds in this offseason. So I think that's somebody else to keep your eye on, just not as a hard tackler, but as a good, sustainable tackler, not D'Angelo Hall early on in his Washington career, much more so in the back end of his career here, where he's not going to come and lay the wood on you, but he's going to be able to come up and make the tackle when he needs to. Kendall was really, really good at that as well.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys again on Wednesday night. Hopefully, Hall will be here. We appreciate everyone who asked questions. Tony Shivers, Deluxe, The Colonel, Tim Towner, Chris Comerton. We appreciate you, boys. We'll see you again on Wednesday. If you've made it this far, you're a freaking champion. We'll see you guys then. I'm Kyle.
I'm the whale.
Yes, you are. All right, everybody. Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.